Hello, good morning. Welcome back to NFLementary. Sorry about the slight delay on the start of the show. The news is horrendously out of sync. So those of you who are listening from 10 o'clock would have heard a nice 20 seconds of the news bed, which is delightful. I have reported it. We'll see what happens. How are we doing today, boys?
Good.
Mark's coming down with a little bit of man flu, in his own words.
Just man flu, feeling a bit under the weather, feeling a bit sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
All the classic symptoms.
I'm not sure I can hear myself.
I can definitely hear you. Don't panic.
I think I
turn your headphone thing up down
it's
there.
full whack.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right. Classic URY then.
Yeah.
Do you want to try this one?
Well,
No,
while you
no.
guys sort out your technical
No,
issues,
it's
I'll walk
fine.
everyone through what's happening on today's show. We are not yet at our Super Bowl preview point. Don't panic, that will come on Friday. We're leaving it as close as possible for maximum impact in our predictions and such like. Make sure you do tune in on Friday at 9 a.m. to hear that, or alternatively subscribe to our YouTube at NFLementary, or just
What's the preview?
NFLementary.
It's going to be a 50-0 Rams walkover, right?
Well, I wonder if we might hear more of that from Mark in the coming week, and then quickly hear him be silent after Sunday night. Who knows? Today we're going to be looking at dynasties. So we did an episode like this last year, and it was quite popular. Just talking about what the dynasties have been in the past, what dynasties may arise in the future, etc., etc. We'll be talking a lot about the Patriots, as we always kind of seem to do at one point throughout the year on the show. Mark's making a sad face, but it's worth talking about. So yeah, we're all gonna. There are a couple of other things that we need to talk about, like that pesky Pro Bowl that happened this last week and wasted 3 hours of my life. So we should probably talk about that and how ridiculous it is, like we always do every year. That's all for now. There is also something that we need to announce. I think it has been announced already, but it's worth announcing again. We will be this Sunday evening.
You are listening to the Super Bowl on URY.
That is right. We will be broadcasting our takes on the Super Bowl live from the URY studio. We'll be in here from around 10 p.m. On the Sunday evening until 4 a.m. So it's going to be a nice long 6-hour shift for the NFLementary boys. We've got a couple jingles made up like that one you just heard. Should I play it again? Yeah, why not?
You are listening to the Super Bowl on URY.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's not a charity stream, but if you want to donate some money to us, then I can always post some account details on Twitter or a PayPal link. Not my account details. That would be ridiculous. But yeah, without further ado, are the Patriots the greatest dynasty in sporting history?
Oh, in sporting history.
Well, yeah.
That's opened the board up.
What else would you put above them?
Well, I'm trying to think about the sports. I don't really know.
There's an ultimate frisbee team.
No, but ultimate frisbee flits between one and another each year. There's been no dynasties.
Really competitive.
Yeah.
And also,
Well
I think
done, Ultimate Frisbee.
AUDL has been running as long as the Patriots have been winning. So,
Well,
Yeah.
if we take the time span, not that it's worked out this way, but they have basically been in the Super Bowl every other year
Yeah,
for the last 20 years.
which is disgusting.
Yeah. Don't really get better than that. I mean, there are certain teams, I guess. Basketball, for instance, Chicago Bulls in the 90s. Michael Jordan was obviously... They won 6 of them.
The
But-
Golden State Warriors.
But I guess they're getting there, yeah. But the interesting thing with the Bulls is when Jordan left, they didn't win a lot. And then when Jordan came back after his weird baseball thing, they won again. So I wouldn't necessarily...
Call that dynasty
It
so
was,
much
but it was also
as Michael
clearly
Jordan's dynasty.
Michael Jordan's impact on a team that can be impacted by one player so significantly. Whereas the NFL isn't always like that, even though we say Brady is obviously the epicenter of it all, and it wouldn't work if it wasn't for him because the position he plays is the most important position in sports.
And even just Brady's given them such consistency over the 20 years.
can we just comment on how there are adults alive today where Tom Brady has been playing football for as long as they've been alive and has been going to Super Bowls for as long as they're alive?
Well, he was drafted in 99, was
He
it?
was drafted in 2000,
Yeah.
but he wasn't a starter for the first year until...
So 2001, we're now in 2019. So
He's been playing football longer than my little brother Owen has been alive. So there you go, Owen, if you're listening, shout out to you for being younger than Tom Brady's football career.
Yeah.
It's incredible that it's just, you know, especially in something like American football where it seems like the game is geared towards teams having kind of rises and then being good for a while and then needing like a a down phase and a rebuild phase, then they rise up again.
Yeah.
And we've seen that pattern with the Rams, them coming back after the early 2000s. We've seen it with
the Browns, who have just been in a ditch
although
forever.
the Browns arguably haven't had much highs prior to this year. The only other comparison I can really think of, and it's tenuous really to even compare these, but the Ravens' defense for the last 10 years or so has always been good. But there's different from always having your defense be good and consistently maintaining success across an entire team.
And the thing as well is, when you think like the Cowboys dynasty of the 90s consisted of 3 Super Bowls, which is still amazing. Like, if you were part of that, then that's a massive achievement. But if the Patriots win this Sunday, it then becomes only half of what they've accomplished.
Yeah.
The decade before was the 49ers. They won 4, but they won 4 across 10 years.
Yeah.
Which, again, great, but
it's just not on the same level.
It's not the same. And then decade before that, the Steelers, they won 4. Both of them back-to-back sort of deals.
Yeah.
But, again, not the same because they didn't have the longevity all the way through. So, even in their down years, the Patriots went to 2 Super Bowls and they lost them, but one of those years was an undefeated season. Yeah. So,
not really
it kind of
year,
swings and roundabouts. Unfortunately, you don't get everything you want, but it's the weird thing about the Patriots though is I'd argue that the second half of this dynasty from say like 2011 onwards has been better and more dominant than actually the first half, which is probably the way it shouldn't go, given the fact that when they were building this team and won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, they had a much younger Brady and a team that was obviously the one that they built it up with. So to then go on a few years later and do it again with completely different people, and to continue to do it every year with the with the turnover that they have with all these players, it shouldn't be happening, and they shouldn't be as good as they are right now, especially as there's been a bit of a decline on defense as well.
And especially in the last few years, they seem to be keeping the dynasty going by just shoving people in. Like last year, they just popped Brandon Cooks in. They got a year of productivity out of him, and then they shipped him on to the Rams. This year, Josh Gordon, I know, is now left, but Josh Gordon was another player who they just stuck in and then had loads of productivity with Brady. And running backs, they just seem to just grab whoever and put them in, and it works. And they just get it to work. And the team somehow comes and finishes the season with 11-5. Yeah, 11-5. That it does add up to 16.
But the crazy thing there is 11-5 is their worst record since, I think, Brady's return year in 2009.
Yeah, when was it Matt Castle?
So Matt Castle the year before when he got injured, they went 11-5. I think the year after they went 10-6, and then
The other thing that's worth mentioning is there's often this narrative of the Patriots are only successful because they're in the AFC East, and the AFC East is rubbish, which is incredibly appealing because it provides like an explanation for why they've been so good. And people say, well, the regular season is a warm-up for the Patriots. They play 6 games against weaker teams, yada, yada, yada. This article here that I've just got up, it's from July 2018, but recently people have done further kind of research into it and looking at it. The Patriots have gone 189-51 as of July 2018 against the AFC East, which is a .788 winning percentage. Against the rest of the NFL in that time, they are 118-32, which is .786. So actually, they win at least the same, if not more, games against out-of-division opponents they do against inter-division opponents.
And the interesting thing against the AFC East opponents is if you take away the Patriots games that they play every year, those teams are roughly 8-8 every year. And I'm not saying that's amazing, but they're not bad either. They're obviously teams that are difficult to beat.
Particularly Miami in Miami.
Yeah, well, if you take the records from this year, Miami finished in the end 7-9.
Yeah.
But if you take away the Patriot game, that they absolutely messed up at the beginning of the year, that's 7-8, and obviously the miracle play happened, so they did win that. But the Bills games, they finished 6-10, but without the Patriots games, it would have been 6-8. I'm not saying that they would have won these games. My point is when you take away those games, they're not like easiest teams to beat.
Historically bad teams.
No.
It's not like they're playing Cleveland every year.
And it's like what we say, New England every year have to go down to Miami, which is a terrible place to play for most teams because they just can't adjust to the heat. Buffalo have always had a pretty good defense. You know, it's not like they're
particularly now with McDermott.
Yeah, they have been a shambles, but the other thing with Buffalo as well is the conditions are just as bad as in New England, so both teams know the conditions. And with the Jets, well, it's the Jets. I mean, in fairness to the Jets,
are trash,
in fairness to the Jets, the Jets have been to 2 NFC
Yeah.
championships in the last 10 years.
AFC.
Sorry, yeah.
That would be incredible.
Yeah. They beat the Patriots.
Yeah.
In, I think, back-to-back playoffs.
Big Mark Sanchez.
Yeah. You know,
Butt fumble.
it's not like they've had...
walk.
It's not like they've had 3 Cleveland Browns to play every year that have gone, you know, completely south.
2-14.
They've had, I mean, a couple of years ago, the Dolphins went to the playoffs as well. Last year, the Bills went to the playoffs. Like, you know...
Bills went to the playoffs last year.
I know, it is funny. But the point is all 3 of these teams... They have been to the playoffs multiple times during this period. They've done things. The Jets were very close to actually getting to a Super Bowl. So...
I'll say this, you know, I was talking to my friend Callum over the last week, and he's a big Bills fan. He was on the show last year, did the Super Bowl with us. Interestingly, for those of you who weren't listening to the beginning of the show, we're doing a Super Bowl live stream this Sunday, 10 p.m. till 4 a.m. Make sure you tune in. And basically, we were talking about how whenever this Patriots dynasty falls, whether that's according to what the comments Tom Brady's make this week, that's not going to be for another 4 or 5 years. He said he wants to keep playing until he's 45, which would be a disaster for the rest of the NFL because it would just completely ruin the notion of competition once more.
I think he should play till 50. Just because I think it'll be so funny.
If they keep running the ball, he will play till 50. It's just,
even I can hand the ball off to Sonny Michel 20 times in a row. And basically we were saying, you know, who's going to be the next team in the AFC, and I think actually it's going to get a lot trickier for Brady and the Patriots in the next coming years because I rate Darnold. I think the Jets made the wrong decision in hiring Gase over McCarthy, but I do think Darnold is a really good talent, and if they can get him an O-line and get him some weapons, you know, there's potential for something to happen there. I think Josh Allen, if he's used correctly and a scheme is built around him, then him combined with what in the last kind of couple of years has been a good Bills running offense or rushing offense and McDermott's defense, I think the Bills are going to be a contender. As weird as that sounds coming out of my mouth. The Dolphins are just going to be perennially kind of average, so we don't need to speak about them. But that means that Brady all of a sudden has got 2 real competitors in the AFC East. And I know we've just spoken about how, you know, the Patriots' position in the AFC East doesn't necessarily give them any more of an advantage than people seem to think it does. But at the same time, it must be nice knowing as Brady, the Bills are coming to Foxborough. Well, look at my career record against the Bills. Like, I can destroy them. And you know, the Jets are coming, look at my career record against the Jets, that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, if these teams are getting better, I think that will be the end of the Patriots dynasty rather than Brady or Belichick stepping down.
See, I disagree because, like we brought up, they have as good a record against the rest of the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't think they will.
I think
probably lose annually to Miami still.
Yeah, like they always do.
But they are just too good. And I think you're
while
building
Brady
teams.
and Belichick are there, they'll find a way to win. Every
This
year.
is the thing. Like this year again. Oh, look at that! We're back in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we didn't play our best football this year, but you know, why should we? We're pretty bored at this point because every year we just play for 3 games, which they do.
If you look at them at the start of the season, like I was there, like, oh, the Patriots are looking a bit wobbly, and then
Classic media.
and then like, well, no, even just watching their games, and then you realise it's week 5. And like they're starting to do well, and you're like, oh, it's fine. They're just on a little up streak, and then it gets the end of the season.
I don't even think it's that though. You don't even notice them. Like,
No.
you look at. I watched their first few games because obviously we spoke before the season about whether this was the end of the Patriots dynasty, as every NFL media outlet is obliged to do, given the contract that we implicitly sign, and we always have to talk about how the Patriots are going to fail this year, and then somehow they win, and we have to say how wrong we were. Although I'm pretty sure we said that we weren't going to buy into that narrative, so go us.
Yeah.
NFLementary striking out from the crowd. But, you know, like you watch the first couple games and, you know, you read the media articles about how Brady is washed up, yada, yada, yada. And then they kind of just fade into the background and it comes to, you know, something like week 10, I'd say. And all of a sudden they're, whatever they were, 8-2 or 7-3. And you're like, well,
Yeah.
How does
all
that
of a sudden,
happen?
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
started on like 1 and 2, and you're
Yeah.
there like,
Same thing happened last year. The Panthers beat them in week 3 or whatever it was, and I was like, whoa. Are the Patriots past it? Are the Panthers just great? Who knows? Blah, blah, blah. Let's remember that was in September or October when the Patriots don't really turn the volume up to 100, and that doesn't happen until November, December, and
It happens every year. I remember the Kansas City game from a few years ago where they were just demolished. Like, I don't think they've ever been beaten.
What, the opening game of the season?
It wasn't open. No. It was a few years before that.
Yeah.
It was. I think the final score was something like 41-14. I've never seen the Patriots play that way. It was awful. Brady got benched for Garoppolo. It was that bad. And then Belichick came at the end of it. He's obviously great at these press conferences. And at the end of the press conference, he would refuse to say anything but onto Cincinnati. And then the following week they went to Cincinnati and Brady annihilated them.
Yeah.
And then they went on to win the Super Bowl that year. But it was fine because for that whole week they sucked and they were awful and they were
washed up. Past it. It's been 15 great years.
And then
it's been 20 great years.
This year it was 35-7 at halftime against the Chargers. And then they shut out the Chiefs at home the next week.
It's like they just defy expectations. Do you think that there'll ever be a run like this?
No.
I mean, it's feasible. I think sort of players are lasting longer with sort of new health stuff and medicine and all this physiotherapy.
Mark, our medical correspondent, health stuff.
We've had weather, now it's
training, all of that stuff. So players are lasting longer. So
I think he's tore his ACL, but it's fine.
Yeah.
There's medicine.
Yeah, we can.
Aren't you that guy that Brady used to train with?
Yeah, I am.
There's the thumbnail.
And so if players can last longer, potentially you can have these longer streaks where you can keep one quarterback, you can keep one coach, you can keep that consistency. And I think that it could happen again. Like, I think it's unlikely to because the Patriots seem to have somehow kept it going. But I think it is very possible and very feasible given that players are lasting longer. So you can, and still playing well at those older ages.
The only thing, though, I think it comes down to getting the unlikely combination of best coach. I mean, they have the best coach ever and the best player ever. Like, the likelihood of those two things coming together is so hard. But there are a couple.
McVay and Goff.
Well, there are a couple of guys that play in the NFL right now, like an Aaron Rodgers, who technically is better, but is not better, if you know what I mean.
Not as successful.
He's not overrated.
Rodgers,
He plays the game better than anyone, but his accomplishments just do not compare.
Stack up against Brady.
So I think it goes to show. It's like in the Montana era, you had Marino. Marino was the best player.
Yeah.
And until Rodgers came along, I think you could probably put Marino down as the best technical player.
The most talented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't win anything. So the combination isn't always there.
Yeah.
It's almost like, well, Drew Brees is undeniably great. He's only won one. It's only been to one. And he had back-to-back 7 and 9 seasons.
Yeah.
But he had a great coach too. So there's a whole host of different things. And I think it comes down to the moment that you find yourself in. I mean, Brady was like, what, 6th round pick? Like, these things just don't seem to be predictable.
The reason I don't think it will ever happen again, 2 words: salary cap. The way the NFL is going now, if you want to keep your best players, you have to pay them at the top of the market value, irrespective of whether their abilities correspond to that. And what the Patriots have been able to do the last 10 years in particular, I think, is say to players, we might not pay you in money. Sorry, I've got something in my throat. We might not pay you in money. We'll pay you in success. If you take a less than market value contract, like Brady's been doing, like Amendola was doing before he went to the Dolphins, like I'm sure a lot of the players on that team are doing. If you take a less than market value contract, what we can guarantee you is a Super Bowl, an AFC Championship, an AFC East Championship, all these things. We will, push forward your mandate for Pro Bowls, for All-Pro, for eventually maybe Hall of Fame stuff. You're much more likely to get there when you have the Super Bowl rings to back you up. That's just a proven fact. And it's going to be difficult for another team to create that identity in the same way the Patriots have, even when, you know, I think not the last chance, but it was quite telling that when Rodgers signed his new deal with Green Bay, that was an opportunity for him to take a stance and say, me and Max have spoken about this quite a lot before, I think it might be mentioned on the show, that was an opportunity for him to take a stance and say, I want you to obviously pay me because I deserve to be paid, but I want to, you know, allow some funds to be diverted back into the team to create a better supporting cast around me. Did he do that? No, not really. The closest thing I can think to Brady's story is Dak being taken in the fourth by the Cowboys. And Dak is, I think, they're not similar players by any stretch of the imagination. Dak's much more mobile. But I think that both of them, when they were drafted, weren't players who can immediately drag a team to the Super Bowl and win. They relied, depending on your opinion, a lot on the system they were put in. But had Dak been surrounded with talent, he kind of was. He had Jason Witten, who, for all his inability to commentate, was an incredible tight end, destined for the Hall of Fame. He had Zeke behind him, who, you know, I've spoken about how I don't like him as a person, but I can't deny that he's a very good running back. Maybe didn't have the receivers he needed to, but I think Cole Beasley is quite underrated. Had the best O-line in the league, but then was held back by coaching. And now Dak had the lowest salary cap hit for any starting quarterback in the NFL when he was drafted. That was such an opportunity to build a team around him. But what's going to happen now is the Cowboys will be average for the next couple of years with Garrett. Dak will get paid. They won't be able to afford to put funds and money into things like the O-line, like the D-line. And the team's just going to descend back into mediocrity because Dak in himself is not good enough to drag that team to dynasty status.
Well, hopefully he is clever enough to realise that.
I don't think any NFL quarterback is, though. Like Cam's contract.
Brady not?
Yeah, well, maybe that's Brady and Belichick have cracked it. Maybe that's the formula for success because, you know, Cam's contract is up in 2 years. You're up for renewal in a couple of years. I hope and pray with all my heart he follows the Brady model, but honestly, do I think he will? Probably not, because to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, you need to be incredibly egotistic, even just to get to that stage, you know, to battle for it in college, to be the best in high school, to then get drafted high up. You know, people look for these personality traits, and, you know, those personality traits might translate to strong leadership and, you know, just being a good NFL quarterback and believing in yourself and all this kind of stuff. But it also translates to, I think I'm the best, I want to be paid like the best. And, you know, money can be oftentimes a kind of symbolic thing rather than, you know, what's the difference really between 20 million and 30 million a year? I mean, I know it's 10 million, I know that's a lot of money, but it's not as if you're struggling to be paid off 20 million a year, is it? And I think, you know, as soon as they get drafted, they have money thrown at them left, right and centre. So they just lose this perception of what money actually is. This is slightly going off topic, but, you know, I read a really interesting article recently about practice squad players. And how they have to survive on essentially minimum wage with no guaranteed contract, no guarantee that once practice squad season is over, they'll be kept on the practice squad or they'll be signed to the full-time squad or they'll just be cut and left to kind of drive around the country. Lots of them just live in their cars. They still have to pay taxes in places like LA and living costs like that, whereas in Florida, where there's no tax and low living costs, you know, you can be a lot more successful there. They're the players that the money should really be diverted to who actually need it, not necessarily the Bradys, less so Brady, the Rodgers, the Cams, the Breeze, who signed a big contract, Kirk Cousins signed a big contract.
Derek Carr.
It's all like a status thing when it gets to that stage. And it's just quite disappointing, really. No, and I know, you know, they've earned it. Fair enough, I know they've earned it, but they don't need it.
No, I think it's completely true. Patrick Mahomes, I was reading an article the other day, he's expected to be the first person to break over 150 million, which is just ridiculous. I mean, he's just played his second year. I mean, let's please like pump the brakes a little bit because he might suck. We don't know. Like, I'm just saying, we have one season.
The title.
No, I'm just saying.
No, yeah.
And the one team I actually think is really going to struggle out of this is the one team that I think have cracked the code of short-term success in spite of long-term, and that's the Rams. Yeah. Because the Rams have gone all out on these players, and it's funny because we're talking about there'll never be another dynasty again. If I had to put my money on a team that, I'm not going to say dynasty, because I think
Kind of perennial success.
Two things, because first of all, we're jaded by the idea that dynasty now means 20 years, which will never happen. And the second thing is, I think, like we say, the turnover is too much nowadays. But if I can pick one team that could go to the Super Bowl, 3 times and say the next 6 years and probably win a couple, it's the Rams, because they are so high-powered. McVay is so good, and Goff will only get better. But Goff is on his rookie deal. Todd Gurley isn't getting paid what he could be getting paid yet. I'm just saying, you've got Donald as well. You're going to want to keep him, but you can't then keep Talib. I know he'll retire, but then you can't go out and get another Marcus Peters. You've got Marcus Peters. He's young. You're going to keep paying him. And Ndamukong Suh, are you going to keep him? Because in the playoff games, and Ndamukong Suh has stepped up. He has been really good, and he's been very valuable. You're going to keep him? You kind of would, but then maybe he's too old. I don't know. The point is you brought these
LaMarcus Joyner to pay this year.
So you brought these guys in, these veteran guys who are older. You signed to these smaller deals. Fair enough. It means the cap hit won't be as big. Brandon Cook's another one, but he's younger. But what are you going to then do? Because there's not necessarily next guy up.
Yeah.
You're going to go out and pay someone again? Probably. But you can't keep doing that, because in 2 years' time, when Goff wants paying, you can't let him go, because McVay-Goff is probably going to be the next long-term quarterback coach connection. It's not going to be Andy Reid and Mahomes, because Andy Reid's like 60-something. Yeah. It's not going to be Arians and Winston, as much as, like people like saying, oh, that's a good combo. Arians is 66. It's not going to happen. And I get Belichick's almost 70, but Belichick's also almost been there 20 years.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
I mean, could the fact that we've seen Todd Gurley, it was all already in game sort of sacrifice his own success in terms of scoring the touchdown, which gets him the 50,000 bonus or whatever, to take a knee on the line, as it were, to run the clock down. Is that an indication that potentially players are more moving towards this team mindset?
Oh, I have no doubt that players have this team mindset.
But when it comes to money, it changes people.
Matt Ryan, I think, is a good example. He got paid a lot of money, but if you ever listen to him talk, he is very much a team guy. He's a normal guy who just gets paid
and dresses up in ladies' underwear every now and then.
My point
I'll tweet out that photo later.
He's a normal guy. It's hard to talk about it like this, because even then, Brady's still getting paid $15-20 million a year. And you know full well that Robert Kraft is giving him something on the side.
Yeah.
He is, of course he is.
Have a brand deal.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything.
And do you know what? That's fine, because that sort of player has earned it. But I think as much as players are still in that team mindset, and they will always pretend to be, except maybe Antonio Brown and those sorts of guys, when it comes down to it, do you want paid, yes or no? And like you said about the status thing, you're the next guy up. Well, I'm better than that guy.
Yeah,
it's what happened with Donald, because as soon as Donald gets paid,
Matt got paid.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't pay Mac less. You just physically couldn't. And that's probably the reason why the Raiders were like, we can't do anything.
Be interested to see what happens with DeMarcus Lawrence as well. Yeah. Because DeMarcus Lawrence is a great player, but is not on the same level as Khalil Mack or Aaron Donald. But given the state of the market, he can 100% demand that kind of money if he wants it. And if the Cowboys don't give it to him, well, it'll just go somewhere else where they will. The Jets, the Browns.
And if anyone wants to try and follow this Patriots way of winning by paying less, it's going to take a massive player, and I thought Rodgers might have been that guy, to make a statement and say, hey, look,
and implement a team culture.
I am publicly saying I am taking less money
for the sake of the team.
Yeah, for the sake of a team, and for the sake of the fact that if we keep inflating this price every year, it's going to get stupid.
Yeah. It already is a bit stupid.
Does the cap increase?
It's with inflation, but
salary cap has increased by, I'd say, probably an average about $10 million per year.
Yeah,
over the last couple of years.
So not much.
No, but enough to kind of keep paying your quarterbacks more and more every year, basically.
But only by 10 million more.
But then you've got to think about structure too. Like Garoppolo, for instance, has already been paid a large
40 million,
sum
I think,
of his contract, and so he'll get front-loaded the contract.
His cap hit will be less throughout the years.
Okay.
So it's to do with like salary. I think you carry with you. So if salary is tied to the player. This could all be wrong, by the way. If anyone does know, let us know. Salary is tied to the player. So for example, Garoppolo will receive a salary every year, but if he gets cut, the 49ers will no longer be like liable for that salary. But guaranteed money, so that's signing bonus and your like bonuses every year, that stays with you, so you carry that throughout the cap. So that's why the Panthers, for example, are still paying Michael Oher, our left tackle, who got injured in 2015, because we gave him so much guaranteed money. It's why we can't cut Matt Khalil.
It's the problem with Antonio Brown.
Yeah, exactly. Antonio Brown's guaranteed cap hit is roughly like 20 million or something, isn't it? So even if the Steelers got rid of him, they'd still have to pay 20 million of his salary because they agreed to pay it to him. NFL contracts are structured in a really weird and complicated way, and I still haven't quite got my head around it, but I'd like to throw another team in the mix for this dynasty. It's a bit of a surprising one.
Cleveland.
No, well, that would be slightly less surprising.
It would be less surprising.
The 49ers. I'll walk you through why.
Okay.
So we've got a young offensive mind, arguably as good as McVay, Kyle Shanahan. You've got a quarterback who, similar to Brady, has, well, I guess differently to Brady, has succeeded in two different systems, both of which are, beneficial to their quarterbacks. Not as if he's struggling in a system designed for a run game or something. In Garoppolo, who is tied up for the next 5 years, I think, on a cap hit that will get progressively lower. You've got, you've proven that your run game can succeed no matter who you plug in, whether it's Matt Breida or Kyle Juszczyk or was it Raheem Mustafa or Alfred Morris or Carlos Hyde or Jarrett McKinnon back next year, which I'm still super excited about. You've got your Gronk in George Kittle, who I think will quickly become the best tight end in the NFL. You've got already a franchise left tackle and a franchise right tackle in Joe Staley and
Mike McGlinchey.
Mike McGlinchey, yeah. Moving to the defense. This is slightly diminished by the fact Reuben Foster is a woman beater, but we'll move on, or an alleged woman beater. You've got Richard Sherman to kind of shepherd the secondary and get that Legion of Boom kind of vibe. You've got, what's his name? Jaquavius Ward or something. Jakeem Ward, something like that. The other cornerback on the other side, really young, really exciting, really good. Your D-line is, I think, one of the best in the NFL and simultaneously one of the youngest in the NFL. You've got the number 2 overall pick in this draft, so you can nab yourself a blue chip player, someone who will, be incredible for the next 5 years. This is a window, and I know they're in the NFC West with the Rams and the Seahawks and the Cardinals and all these teams. The Rams are already incredible. The Seahawks are, with Wilson, have proven that they can always succeed, no matter what. The Cardinals are on the rise, I think, with Kingsbury. But if I had to pick a team that I think will be the most successful over the next 5 years, I think it will be the 49ers.
I would disagree.
I think it depends a lot on Jimmy G. Like, if he can stay healthy.
This is the thing. We've seen him in 2 years get injured. He can't play. We haven't seen him play a full season yet. He got injured after 3 games this year. When he was covering for Brady, he only had to play 4 games. He couldn't fulfill that. He got injured. And you've just tied yourself up now to the next 5 years of that, which is fair enough. But it's a lot of money. Like you just said, all your players are young. They're going to want to get paid. Who are you going to cut? Who are you going to keep? Sherman statistically has been one of the best corners this year. He hasn't gotten a lot of spotlight.
He's on that kind of Patrick Peterson level where he doesn't get targeted.
Yeah, he doesn't get targeted because people are too scared to, because he has the best...
Or the lowest passer rating allowed in coverage. Yeah.
Wow. Who'd have thunk?
I think players, quarterbacks complete less than half their passes when they throw to a player that Sherman's covering still, which is really, really good.
He's
incredible.
But the climate in the NFC is so
especially that
stuffy.
division.
I think the climate is right for the taking, though.
Is it though? Because would you not say that the Rams, with this team that they are guaranteed to have for the next 3 years, is not going to...
I think Rams 49ers will become, the game.
Yeah, probably will actually, yeah.
And it's no coincidence that those teams are led by McVay and Shanahan, who I think are the 2 most exciting coaches in the NFL. And, the reason that there's this rush to kind of find the next young offensive prototype.
I think the thing that Shanahan has in his favour, though, is his family has that pedigree. Yeah. So he's grown up with it. He understands it more than a Cliff Kingsbury.
Shanahan's also... with the Falcons made it to the Super Bowl and had that kind of experience, whereas I know McVay has now made it to the Super Bowl, and this will obviously be an incredible experience for him as a head coach, but Shanahan knows what it means to be on a successful team, and as Dan Quinn, I think, as a team builder, and just as kind of like a general manager, deserves a hell of a lot of credit for what he's done, and Shanahan will hopefully have learned from that, whereas McVay had to study under Jay Gruden, which is not the same level as Dan Quinn.
I just realised that, like, at this point in probably not New England, but like LA, these players are probably absolutely bricking it. Like,
what, for the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
They've all travelled to Atlanta.
Okay, are they in Atlanta now? So they're all in Atlanta. Like, at this point, they're playing on Sunday. Like, imagine that feeling. Like,
well, they had their media night last night. And not really any interesting quotes to come out of it. Josh McDaniels basically said, I handled the Colts situation badly. Shock.
Yeah.
We all thought you handled it great, Josh.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't really know what else was said. Brady said he wanted to play until he was 45. Jared Goff said something funny at some point, I think.
golf.
Yeah, probably. Jared Goff. The only other team I put up there probably is the Chiefs with Mahomes. But then...
You raise a good point with Andy Reid.
Here's the thing that sucks about that, though. Is I genuinely think for them to actually succeed, it won't be with Andy Reid, because he has never, ever, ever won anything.
Eric Bieniemy.
I don't care. What? It's like, I don't care how many regular season games you win, because when you get to the postseason, you shut down.
He does have some kind of juju curse.
He does, and I don't know what it is, but history would say that Mahomes will not succeed until Andy Reid is gone. I don't know.
I see what you mean, but at the same time, I just love Andy Reid.
I know. Oh, I love him too,
Yeah.
and I think he's great.
I'm letting my heart rule my head.
I think he's really good, but you can't be great if you haven't won a title or anything. He
think you
won
can.
one.
I think, well, I would say Patrick Mahomes is great because, I mean, I know the Pro Bowl is a load of rubbish, but if you looked at him in that compared to all the other quarterbacks, he was head and shoulders above them. Like, he was making...
Russell Wilson was on his level at least.
Maybe close,
Russell Wilson
but
only played for about 30
I know what
seconds.
you're saying, because my feeling towards Mahomes is he's going to be that next generational player that, if he plays his cards right, will just be successful for who he is.
he did another no-look pass, and it didn't come off because I don't think the player...
receiver dropped it.
Yeah, the receiver dropped it. Like, and that's something that A, they hadn't practiced, and B, I don't think it was to a Chiefs player. Like, the fact that he managed to get it exactly...
Was it to Eric Ebron, Mahomes' favourite target of the year? I don't know if you heard that.
I did,
Yeah.
Classic Jason Witten. Oh my god, I could do a better job than that. Any of us could do a better job than that broadcast than ESPN. If you're looking for some Monday Night Football commentators, you got free right here.
Yeah.
Or at least Pro Bowl commentators.
Yeah, that would actually be well fun. We would make it fun.
Oh, and Mike Evans laterals it to literally anyone. Oh, look,
And
there's the
Saquon.
concession stand guy. There he is.
And Saquon has run for 200 yards and made it 5 yards downfield.
It was like whenever they tried to run it through the middle, it was like, why are you trying to do this? As soon as they get touched in the...
I saw a tweet that said it should be criminal to call runs in the Pro Bowl, and you know what? I actually agree.
Yeah, there is.
There should be legislation passed. It was also funny that in a game where zero defense was played, where tackles were literally putting your hand on someone and waiting for them to just stop running, where no one could be bothered, Jason Garrett still managed to be shut out for 3 quarters and only score 7 points for an entire game.
Oh,
and
yeah.
his most successful play was a fake punt. An offensive whiz, Jason Garrett. The next Belichick.
Oh, it cripples me.
Anyway, I was going to say another thing.
Patrick Mahomes.
We were on Patrick
Great.
Mahomes. And
Andy Reid, old.
Yeah.
Doesn't win games.
There was another team that I was going to mention.
Well, I'll mention a couple of my teams that
Yeah.
I have floated before the show. One of them is the Browns. I love the Browns.
Do you?
Oh, well, that's a good enough reason, that, yeah.
B, they have a very young team. They have a very... Baker Mayfield has the attitude that could take him to be great. He has the mindset of, I want to win, I want to play well, and I want to play at my best, and I want to keep doing it. If someone tells me I can't do it, I will do it. And as long as that doesn't sort of become toxic and arrogant, then he, I think, has the right mindset to be a great quarterback.
The thing that benefits him is his team loves him.
Yeah.
So, they rally around him, and you can tell that when he's playing, they play better because they believe in him. And I think
that's what Brady has as well.
I think that's rightfully so. The thing with Brady is I think that's more of a retrospective thing, because no one could say Baker was the number 1 overall pick. Brady was a 6th round pick.
Yeah.
I don't think
199th.
Yeah, I don't think you could compare the two at this same point, but I get what you're saying. I think when Baker's on the field, it is a bit more electrifying. I think things happen and he makes plays. My worry with the Browns, though, is 2 things. Firstly, I don't know if Baker Mayfield will remain not arrogant, if he isn't already. And then the second one is, it's Cleveland.
It's the right side of arrogance. So, I mean, in some ways, you'd say Tom Brady is very arrogant in the sense that he's there like, I know I am like one of the best, and I know that I will go out and win. So I think it just depends on sort of what side of arrogant you fall. Like, if you fall on the whole, I would use the example of Marcus Peters, where you have a lot of talk.
You love Marcus Peters.
I really don't. He just... I really don't.
You were so excited when they traded for him.
I was like, oh yeah, great. We got 2 great cornerbacks, and then he's just done nothing except for let people get free while he marks them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't even mark them. I could be tighter than him.
Mark could mark them better.
Exactly.
Mark.
All I'd have to do is run next to them. That's your job. You're a cornerback.
Some strong marks there from Mark.
Mark. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, but they've just got a lot of gob and not much actually to back it up.
Gob.
Well, okay.
Last team I want to put forward.
Yeah.
Raiders.
I'm going to completely ignore that comment.
I'm not going there, but yes.
The Indianapolis Colts. Really young team. Frank Reich, who again is... I don't know if you guys saw that tweet, but it was like a picture of Frank Reich, and it was like, why does Frank Reich look like every hipster ordering a pale ale, in a downtown bar, or a fruit beer? But an incredible offensive mind, on a similar level to McVay and Shanahan. If he still needs to prove it. You've got Luck, who is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL, I think. Potentially, am I going to say it? Potentially even of all time.
What?
Andrew Luck.
What did he say?
One of the most talented quarterbacks of all time. I think it's a big statement to make at this point of his career, but I think he will prove me right.
Okay.
You've got Marlon Mack, Nyheim Hines, all that run game. You've obviously built a great O-line that can keep getting better. Your defense is young. Your wide receiver core is young and led by kind of T.Y. You've got some studs on defense in Darius Leonard and Malik Hooker. I think they're set up for success for the next kind of 5 years. And I also think that the teams in their division, i.e. the Texans, the Jags, and the Titans, are all pretty teams with little substance to them. I don't think any of them are built for long-term success. I mean, you've got some nice, exciting quarterbacks in that division. Deshaun Watson.
Blake Bortles.
Yeah. But no one, I think, is on a similar level to the Colts. No. And I think I would extend that to the majority of the AFC, if I'm honest. I
agree. And in terms of the Titans, I've given up. Yeah. I really do. I don't get it. They just can't pass 9-7. It's just the thing. With the Jags, until they get their quarterback sorted, I don't know. But then as they keep going, that defense is going to age, and defenses age much quicker.
Apart.
Yeah. There's too many egos. It's a bit like the Steelers effect.
Yeah.
No one cares because it's Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And I agree with the Texans. Deshaun Watson is great. He just is great.
Yeah.
But his team aren't, and his coach isn't.
I don't think that, this year, he was the most sacked quarterback and the most hurried quarterback and all this kind of stuff, and he was still successful. The guy is an incredible talent, but he's not going to be successful if you literally put, to use your example from the Seahawks, 5 turnstiles in front of him.
Yeah.
And just allow Ron from Catering, I think it was, to walk on through.
It's true. I mean, they have J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney, Whitney Merciless, Deshaun Watson, and DeAndre Hopkins, and that's about it.
Yeah.
It just feels that way.
It's seeming like Clowney won't even get paid this year, which is preposterous, but they might try and tag him. But, just the Texans don't really get it right, and no one in that division gets it right. And I know it's easy to overstate the importance of a weak division, but it's obviously nice having 6 games a year where you're pretty sure you're going to win them.
Yeah.
So that's our dynasty's take. If we could wrap it up in one word, who's the next dynasty? If anyone?
Patriots, because it's still going to be running for the next 10 years.
Rams.
I'll say Colts. I'm here for the Colts. I might buy a Colts jersey. Right, in this final 13 minutes and 20 seconds of the show, let's speak briefly about the Bo Prol, or the Pro Bowl.
Bro Prol.
You know, we've made it abundantly obvious here on NFLementary that we have about as much faith in the Pro Bowl as we do in a paper kettle. Consistently picks the wrong players. Consistently fails to live up to the hype. This all-star, inverted commas, game. And it's just generally a weird, defunct institution that needs some big shake-ups. So what we're going to do...
It's just watching 22 people have fun on a field. Like,
well, I don't think they're having fun. Like, it's not fun to just run around in the rain and
I
run into
think
someone's arm and then have to stop running. That's
I think
not
some
fun.
of the offensive players, when they play defense, have fun.
Yeah. But like that just shows how ridiculous it is. Saquon Barkley is not a middle linebacker. It's an all-star game, according to the NFL.
Mike Evans
is
interception.
I know. It's an all-star game. Imagine in the NBA all-star game if they just brought on like the coach to come and play point guard for a bit. It would be ridiculous.
It happens though. Like the NBA all-star game sucks as well.
It's just stupid. They need to make some changes. So what we're going to do in 10 minutes is fix the Pro Bowl.
Oh God.
It's not possible.
I think it is. Let me walk you through some of my suggested reforms. Number one, emphasize the skill showdown stuff more, because that stuff is interesting and it makes me laugh and it's funny and it's cool to see stuff like that happen and players actually work for it.
You just enjoy Trubisky publicly just demonstrating how bad he actually is.
Yeah, I do enjoy that.
Wait, where do you go to watch this?
It's on YouTube.
Is it on YouTube?
Yeah.
That's what I've got to see, because I wanted.
They're really good.
Is the dodgeball on there?
Yeah. And they did more this year. They did like a full-on series. It's just really like whenever in your life are you going to see Akeem Hicks, who is an absolute monster of a man. I'm not sure his weight, but it's definitely above like 320 pounds. Taunting Andrew Luck, you know, oh yeah, throw it at me. And Andrew Luck just picking him on the shoulder and Akeem Hicks just trudging off depressed. It's hilarious. It's so funny. And, you know, that's what for me the Pro Bowl is now about. And, you know, all this stuff about they get to meet the fans on the sideline. Jamal Adams gets to tackle Patriots mascots.
That's going to be a lawsuit.
Jamal Adams is going on undisputed, I think.
He's messed up there.
Yeah. I think it was a really funny idea, but executed stupidly.
Yeah.
And he's made a mistake. But, he's young and he was just trying to make a name for himself.
And it's fine because then he won defensive MVP. So.
The Patriots mascot was not included in the voting for that. But, that's the exciting part of the Pro Bowl, not this weird game that we have on the Sunday. If they want to do a game, let me tell you how to fix it. 2 words: flag football. It's basically like tag rugby, where everyone gets a flag and you only tackle them. They actually do a flag football game before the Pro Bowl. I didn't get to watch it, but I saw some highlights. It looked quite interesting. And, it's different rules, but you can have similar rules. You don't need tackling. You have less offensive linemen on the field. Just less players on the field. I think it's 7-on-7. So if you want to have more offensive linemen, you can. Or if you want to have more defensive backs, you can.
5 offensive linemen and 1 receiver.
1 quarterback, 1 running back. Yeah, why not? It's just, and then all this stuff about how no one wants to get injured because they don't want to get tackled. So you end up with these weird, hugs, basically, instead of tackles.
Or just, 2-hand taps, and it's like...
Yeah, or just letting Anthony Sherman run past you because, you want him to win MVP of the game or whatever. All this stuff can get eliminated because you're just going for the flags. And, players might not be into it as much, but at least, they're not going to be worried about injuring themselves anymore. And you could, just make it shorter as well. And don't get Jason Witten to commentate it. That's probably my biggest news. And don't get Jason Witten to present the Pro Bowl trophy as well. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
So the Pro Bowl trophy's in 2 parts. There's the top bit, which is like the shiny silver bit, and then there's the base at the bottom, which just lists the teams that have won it. So when Jason Witten was presenting it, he lifted up the top bit and broke it. And then was like, put it back down, tried to lift it up again. Not being funny, Jason, but it's not magnetic. It's not going to stick to it again. If it fell off the first time, it's probably going to fall off the second time. So it puts it back on and then just picks it up from the bottom. If you look at Jamal Adams' face throughout all this, eyes wide open, deep breath in. It's just, it's a farce. It just summed up the Pro Bowl for me.
I think they should do 1 or 2 things. Either the Pro Bowl should be the last game of the season like it used to be.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, it might entice the bigger players to want to play, because I can understand why someone like Breeze will want to play. He's obviously super depressed right now.
Yeah.
What I personally think should happen, based on the fact that no one wants to play the game, you scrap the game and you make the activities they do during the week part of the Super Bowl build-up. So wherever the Super Bowl is, they should go there and do everything there.
Yeah, I think that'd be really good. And have a fan zone kind of thing.
And I understand to a certain degree it's almost rubbing it in those players' faces because they're there for Super Bowl weekend but they're not playing.
Yeah.
But at the
It
same
does mean
time,
that teams that make the playoffs and they've already booked their flights to that place, because they want those cheap flights.
because that is the
practically.
problem. Yeah, no, but it means two things. I think the first one is it means those players still get an opportunity to be part of that weekend, and the second thing is those players get an opportunity to see what their weekend means. Especially to some of the younger players like a Jamal Adams, who will never get there because his team sucks, but he deserves to be there, sort of thing. Do you see what I mean, though?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the only way, because, like you say, I think undeniably what they do during the week is the entertaining part.
Yeah.
And the game, which used to be
The fun,
such a
exciting
really
thing.
exciting game to see
Like,
all these
going
great
around
players.
on Twitter this week has just been that Sean Taylor hit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen it. Basically, it's like a punt, and the ball is obviously caught by the receiver, and then he kind of goes through some floaty tackles, and then Sean Taylor just comes out of nowhere and absolutely smokes the guy, like literally basically kills him.
Yeah.
Um,
Basically, he was dead.
yeah. And like, if we were talking about, imagine if you saw that nowadays in the modern kind of Pro Bowl, you'd probably be looking at a massive lawsuit from one player to another or something. But that's not what the game's about. It's not like they implement rule changes. And if they're going to play it this way, and if they're so insistent on making the game this way, they need to change something.
Did you see Bobby Wagner get done for leaping in the game because he jumped over the snapper and then went at the kicker?
No.
Kicking, and it was just. So I don't think you're allowed to do it, but he was like just having a bit of fun. So he's like,
Yeah,
I'm
they
going to
banned
jump
it.
over this player.
They banned it last year. The other thing, the other potential idea, I was saying this to Max, it would obviously need to be worked out so that there would be some kind of structure in place. But the way that Mike Evans was playing corner and Saquon was playing middle linebacker, why not just mix? You can't play your position that you play in the NFL, and you get a quarterback who doesn't play quarterback, a receiver who doesn't play receiver, O lineman who don't play O line, D lineman who don't play D line. That would at least, if you're going to go down the route of it being a farce, which it already is, you might as well embrace that.
Please
do
can we have
something about
Tariq
it.
Cohen playing guard?
Yeah.
He literally gets stepped over, not even jumped over.
No, yeah. You either embrace it or you just think, what, no one cares.
Or just get rid of
So
it.
you do one of two things. Or what they're doing now is they're just living in ignorance. No one watches it. No one cares. The stadium wasn't even half full.
Well, it's
I mean,
interesting,
they were
actually.
in Orlando.
Tickets are going for $15.
Yeah, but
Really?
that stadium should sell out.
Who wouldn't go?
It's Florida, and you're the one city in Florida that doesn't have a team. People should want to go watch that game,
Yeah.
and absolutely no one gives a damn.
For $15? Why?
It is interesting. Also, I saw a tweet. The Pro Bowl coverage had 8 million viewers, which is obviously significantly less than most NFL games. But the NBA All-Star game only had 5.64 million viewers. So
NFL rules on that, though.
yeah, like all the people who are saying, the classic Trump doctrine of, no one's watching it anymore because they kneel for the anthem, yada yada. Nah, dead, tired narrative. Grow up, think of something different to try and wind people up with.
Oh, yeah.
Just wanted to say that. The other thing they need to do to fix the Pro Bowl is stop putting rubbish players in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Last year we had Derek Carr for some preposterous reason. This year we had Mitchell Trubisky for
And
some
Dak
preposterous
Prescott.
reason. And Dak Prescott. There are a multitude of
yeah.
NFC quarterbacks who I'd take ahead of them.
It blows my mind.
I'd even take Matt Ryan. We were speaking about this
yeah.
before the show. Matt Ryan wasn't elected to the Pro Bowl. Matt Ryan had actually quite a good year. That Falcons offense had quite a good year.
I'll take Baker Mayfield as an NFC quarterback.
That might be breaking the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd take half a season of Cam over Mitchell Trubisky this year. I'd take half a season of Rodgers over... Well, I guess Rodgers did get selected to the Pro Bowl, but...
Yeah, but according to this, Matt Ryan was at least 7th in the NFC. Well, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
That's just not true.
That's just wrong.
Yeah, it's just not true in any way.
Yeah.
That was probably the only benefit to when they changed the Pro Bowl for a couple of years, where it wasn't AFC and NFC, it was captain choosing his team and captain choosing his team.
Oh, that'd be funny.
At least the best players theoretically got picked, because they weren't looking like, oh, well, he's in the AFC, so we can't have him because he go into that. That's probably the only way you could remedy that, but it's just hilarious. I don't get it. And it showed, because Trubisky in the Pro Bowl itself, where no one tackles you, no one rushes you, he still can't complete a pass.
Some of his reads were absolutely
the
atrocious.
Interception
was...
He just passed it to the other guy.
Yeah.
He literally did. He's like,
It was an awful throw, came out of his hand all wrong, didn't set his feet. A classic quarterback,
You can't even
armchair
blame it on
quarterback critic.
colourblind.
But
It's red and blue.
I'm not sure if he would blame on colourblind, but yeah, glad we've closed that avenue. He he's just. Well, I just don't. He didn't even have that good a season. It was 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. About 3,500 passing yards, 400 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. Like that's.
It's like what I was saying to you. He proved in the Pro Bowl game itself exactly why he wasn't a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
And if that's what the platform you needed, I don't know.
Even Dak played better than him, and that's quite an insult, really.
Dak should have been picked before Trubisky.
Yeah.
But he was actually picked after.
The whole system is flawed. And I get that, like, it's nice to be able to vote for your Pro Bowl players, and, I'm sure it gets a lot of traffic to the website and it gets people invested in it. And, I voted on certain players multiple times. But then, another snub, McCaffrey has had one of the best seasons by a running back. I think this season will go down in history in that he's the first running back ever. He had the most receptions in a season by a running back. He would have had 2,000 yards from scrimmage if he'd actually played in the last game, and he wasn't selected because instead we had...
It was Gurley, Barkley, Elliott and Kapara in that order.
I mean...
In fairness, the NFC is stacked.
Those 4 running backs...
But I don't think I'd take...
Elliott.
Yeah.
No, McCaffrey had, in my mind, a much better year than Elliott.
Yeah.
But I guess there's more Cowboy fans out there voting, so...
I can understand why those 4 are on there, like...
It's not that they don't deserve it. I just think McCaffrey deserved it more, and it can be quite disillusioning. And especially when McCaffrey, from my team, McCaffrey didn't make it, but Trey Turner did. Why? Trey Turner has not had a great year at guard. That Panthers O-line has not had a great year. And then our actual good O-line, Taylor Moton, doesn't make it. Why? Because players seem to remember Trey Turner making the Pro Bowl a couple of years, or people seem to remember it. So when they vote for the O-line, they just plonk him on there because they think he's good. Same thing happened with Darrell Williams last year.
But it's the thing, Aaron Rodgers got selected because it's Aaron Rodgers, so people vote for him.
Yeah, the whole system is just defunct, but, that's our take on the Pro Bowl. NFL, if you're listening, we've put forward a lot of things you could change about it. So do it.
Yeah.
Now. Do it. Do it now.
It's literally the end. Because the NFL typically is pretty good at changing rules overnight when they need to, but this seems to be the one thing they're just incapable of.
The final thing is, I just want to briefly comment on the Saints lawsuit against the NFL. I don't know if you saw the pictures of I'm smiling because it makes me so happy to think of the picture of the lawyers outside the courthouse just their evidence was just an image of Nickel Robbie Coleman pushing, whatever his name was. It wasn't Trayvon Smith, it was the other one, Kirk's Woodall, whatever his name is.
Oh, yeah.
Funny. Just so funny. Damages for emotional distress, loss of faith in the game. Hello, Bountygate.
Yeah, literally.
It's just the whole thing is just stupid and ridiculous, and just so saintsy to get so salty over the tiniest thing. But that's just my opinion. Make sure you join us on Friday for our Super Bowl preview show. It's going to be super exciting. Lots of good stuff going on, including obviously the return of the score predictions and probably Mystic column. Thank you all very much for listening. Again, we've got that live stream on Sunday if you can't make it on Friday, so make sure you tune into that. Thank you all for listening. Goodbye. Have a great Tuesday. All the best.